What up, people? It's your boy, Mr. Vinnie-Dangerous, and I'm back with another installment of the Dangerous Minds podcast. I don't know if people got my announcement. If anybody that's listening that did not see my announcement, this will actually be the last episode of the Dangerous Minds podcast for the year 2016. Just wanted to take a little break and reformat the show, make it a little bit more interesting and entertaining for everyone. I don't want to talk about any solid changes just yet, because I'm not really entirely sure on the new direction we want to take, but I know it is a new direction I want to take. So for the year 2016, I would like to give a shout out and thank you to everybody that supported the show, that supported me. I have a lot of people that have been tuning into the show and people that have really been loving everything that we've had to say on the show. I'd like to thank all my guests. So it's been a pretty good year, a good solid first run for the podcast, and I'll definitely be bringing it back in February of 2017. So I should have everything solidified, any new changes or anything like that I want to do. And we'll be back. We'll be back soon, so just stay tuned. Also, of course, yes, I Am a Dreamer. The EP is out now. If anybody hasn't picked up their copy, you need to go ahead and get it. I have physical copies. We can work out something if you live, outside of my region of Durham or Fayetteville, because I'm usually back and forth between those two places. I could send it by mail, or you could just get a digital copy from iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music. You can stream it on Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music. Yeah, and it's on Spinrilla too. So really no excuse if you want a copy but you don't. If you want a copy but you don't know where to get it, it's everywhere. So just go ahead and support that. I really appreciate that as well. There's been a lot of positive, great feedback. It was over a year's worth of work I put into to create some great music. So I'd really appreciate everybody to go out and support that. Thank you very much. Thank you in advance if you haven't done it already. And then speaking of albums that people put in a lot of hard work in, for the month of December, I've been wanting to do top 10 lists, and I've did the most disappointing albums of 2016. I did my top Grammy picks for the 59th annual Grammy Awards. They made the announcement early last week, so I decided to chime in on that. And we're going to round it off on the last episode, keep it in the theme of albums, my 10 favorite albums of 2016. And one thing, because as you're going through the year, and I was working on music myself, you kind of take it for granted, but in reality, it was a great year for music. You can say whatever you want about 2016. It's been a lot of low points, but one thing you can't say is that it hasn't been a great year for music. There's been a lot of great music coming out. We lost two legends. We lost a lot of legends in music. We lost Prince. We lost David Bowie. It's a lot of people. It's honestly, the list is longer than I can really count. To be perfectly honest with you, it's been a lot of low points, like I said. But it's been a great year for music. A lot of great music has come out. Oh yeah, Phife Dawg passed away earlier this year. And just another name is a lot more than I can really recount right now. But one thing you also can't say is that hip-hop is dead. I put out a lot of dope music, a lot of great music, there's been a lot of great music that's been put out, and a lot of my favorites came from hip-hop. And I would like to just share with y'all, the top 10 that I put together. It honestly was really hard. For one, is nobody that was on my top 10 disappointing albums list is definitely not going to be on this. There's actually some albums on this list that going into it, I wasn't really sure if I was going to like it or not, or honestly, I wasn't really aware of them putting out an album. Either it was kind of like a last minute announcement that was made, or I really wasn't keeping up with these particular artists. So when they put out their respective projects, I was kind of like, oh, wow. And I was pleasantly surprised because not, going into the music with no expectations, and it turned out great. A lot of these albums fit that mode. Honestly, it was a lot of music that did come out this year that I didn't get to listen to. So there's a few albums that that I might have really liked that came out this year, but it's been a lot of other stuff. I've been working on music. It's a lot of music that, because of the creative process, I'm listening to classic stuff that inspired me. Like, I was listening to Outkast, I was listening to Biggie, I was listening to Tupac. A lot of Biggie influence on this EP that I put out. So that kind of canceled out a lot of my time to really listen to everything. So it was really just the albums that I was checking for. And, to help narrow my list down, because even with all that, it was still a lot of albums, a lot of music that came out this year that I was really high on. So just to make sure that I narrowed it down, I made sure to no mixtapes, strictly albums. So there's people that put out some dope mixtapes. I really like Tinashe's mixtape she put out, for an example. Even if I was really a big fan of Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book, Coloring Book would not have been on this list, just for the simple fact that it was a free project. It's eligible for the Grammys, but honestly, it's not an album. So there you go. So without further ado, because I'm rambling at this point, we just gonna go ahead. I got a few honorable mentions. I'm just gonna name them off. I'm not gonna say too much about them because I got 10 actual albums that I need to speak about in detail. The honorable mentions are Bruno Mars, 24 Karat Magic. I don't know if I got that right. It was a really good album. I went into it, 24 Karat Magic. I went into it not really expecting much. I like Bruno Mars when he drops singles, but when he puts out albums, I've never really been that big on him. The first album he put out was decent. It was a nice little fun record that had a couple low points, but for the most part, it was pretty decent. Not really much I would go back to. His last album, that was really dope. But this one right here, I really loved. It's real short, 9 songs. I pretty much like every song on there. There's a few of them that, not really that big on, but they're pretty good. And, of course, 24 Karat Magic is my shit. That's one of my favorite songs of the year. One of my favorite singles of the year, just in general. So, I love that album. Dwelled on that one a little bit longer than I anticipated. So we're just going to move right along. And one of my favorite rappers of all time, somebody that I feel like is very underrated, and because of a lot of other drama and a lot of other situations that go on in this person's life, I feel like his talents get overlooked, and that would be Joe Budden. Really, the most newsworthy thing that Joe Budden done all year was beef with Drake. I covered that in the 6th episode of the Dangerous Minds podcast, and and for him, and it's kind of a compliment because he kind of go through a lot of stuff. So for him to kind of just stay out of the light in a pot, I guess no news is good news. But he put out an awesome album that I felt like a lot of people slept on. It's really dope. Really wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't keeping up with as far as like his music and everything. The song Idols, dope. Like, people love the last song on J. Cole's album. I really feel like people should listen to Idols. Like, Idols was really dope by Joe Budden this year. It's really great. And if he was to not put out any more music after this, like, this would be a perfect way to like a send off. This was like one of the best albums of the year for me. And last but not least, Phonte and Eric Roberson put out a joint project called Tigallerro. I really hate that. I struggled pronouncing this one. But yeah, they collab together. Eric Roberson is a soul R&B artist. Phonte, of course, 1/3 of the now defunct Little Brother group, but is also a really prominent hip hop artist right here from North Carolina. And they put out a really short 10-track EP. It was really dope. It was really low key, but it was really dope. Like I've been riding with it since it came out. So, I just had to mention that one. But these 10 albums that I'm about to mention, I feel like kind of eclipse those 3 records right there just a little bit. And I'm gonna start off with number 10, another joint project with Big Sean and Jhene Aiko, 2088. I went into this one not really expecting much. I think around this time, Kendrick Lamar's Untitled and Unmastered had came out, and I was still kind of digesting that one. Spoiler alert, that album is not on here. It was cool, but it wasn't really. It was, it's a B-side. It's a lot of throwaway songs that didn't make To Pimp a Butterfly for numerous reasons, and you can kind of hear it. It's some entertaining stuff on there, but really not nothing that stuck with me that long. But this actually did. Big Sean and Jhene Aiko are like, it's one thing that a lot of people have always said, and it's, apparently they're coming out as a couple, so I guess there was a little bit more chemistry than just what was in the studio. I'm not really into all that relationship gossip or whatever, but as far as the music, you can see that there's obvious chemistry. It's real short, but it's real dope. I've been pretty much riding with this one since it came out. I took it off my phone, to let some other stuff breathe a little bit, listen to some other stuff, but I put it right back on because it's addicting. The song 2 Minute Warning is my favorite, but every song is pretty much dope from top to bottom, so I really like that one. So that was number 10. Number 9, some people might think that this is crazy. Like, this is all my opinion. I'm not saying that none of these albums are better than it, other than my personal taste and my feelings, like when it came out in 2016 and how I connected with it. And number 9 is Solange, A Seat at the Table. Now, when it came out, like I said, I wasn't really expecting it. I really like Solange's music, but I'm not really that big of a fan, if that makes sense. It's like I listen to it, I rock with it, but when it, it's not like I'm checking for it when she drops something, or I'm like if I listen to it, I listen to it. Like, I might happen to hear it when I'm with somebody, but for the most part, I'm not really checking for her new releases. But that might all change after this album. A Seat at the Table was dope, start to finish. I really like the skits and the interludes. It's kind of weird that Master P was on here. Like, she got her friends and her family on here, but then she has Master P dropping gems. He's dropping gems, so it's not like it was completely out of place. It just kind of came out of left field. But every song on here is dope. The thing why it's not so much higher on the list though is that like the songs were dope, but then it's like you have those songs that really stuck out. So those are the ones I'm going for. Like Don't Touch My Hair, Cranes in the Sky. There's a song, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's produced by Q-Tip. I know that, and I really love that song. But then there's other songs that don't really stick out to me, if that makes any sense. It's good. Like, if I'm riding with it, I'm listening to it, and it's definitely one of my favorite albums. But it's just there's some songs that really stick out, and then there's songs that not necessarily stuck out or are really that memorable to me. But still one of the best albums to come out this year. If one of the best albums to come out in a long time. But another album, number 8, that I kind of connected with a little bit more. It's kind of a guilty pleasure because it's just all fun. Like, I'm not necessarily a guy that listens to music just for mental stimulation or just deep content or whatever. Like, sometimes I like to dumb out, have fun, just kind of get lost in just something kind of take you away from the everyday life. And this is one of those albums that did it for me this year. Travis Scott's Birds in the Trap Sing Brian McKnight, number 8. I like this one top to bottom. The verse that Andre 3000 drops on this was dope. The production is dope. I've always been a big fan of Travis Scott's production. I really liked his last project, Rodeo. So when this came out, I was all for it. And may not be as dope as Rodeo, but it definitely lived up to my expectations. And I love this song. Like I love every song on here. The song where he's kind of doing the Drake, kind of like patois thing. I don't know why that was a big thing this year for everybody. Drake, Tory Lanez, and then now Travis Scott did a song, and Party Next Door did a song on his P3 too, and it's a good song. It kind of just like kind of a weird track, but I still have fun with it. Lose, just the message behind Lose, like I got shit to lose, is like really like one of the biggest highlights of this year to me. So I fuck with the Travis Scott. Another recent album to come out this year, came out beginning of this month, is number 7, Childish Gambino, Awaken My Love. At first I wasn't really high on this, just because it was completely different than what I was expecting. The first single he put out, it was just mostly all instrumental with Childish Gambino singing in the background. And I loved the second single, Redbone, but I could tell he was going on his funk direction. He dives in head first with this album, and the production is amazing. Childish Gambino's range is all over the place in a good way. Like the songwriting is dope. Like I've always compared it to, like when I talk to people about the album, I always compare it to it's like 808s and Heartbreaks mixed with like P-Funk. Well, not even P-Funk. That's Warren G. But just like funkadelics, like Bootsy Collins and George Clinton and people like that. That's why, like I say, it's 808s and Heartbreaks mixed with that, and it's a really dope album. It's very different, so it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I like different. I like when people take risks like that, and Childish Gambino to me is like, I wasn't really high on him until because of the internet, and ever since then, he's been knocking out the park, and I really love this album. So that's my number 7. Number 6, another recent one. Like, to me, it's weird. Like, 2016, as far as, like, albums go, I really don't feel like I got my feel for albums until later in the year, for the most part. And this album came out, I believe, in November. It's either late November, early December. But number 6 is The Weeknd, Starboy. And Starboy it's kind of a mixture between The Weeknd's last album and then the first album, like commercial releases before the mixtapes. Like Kissland, and I can't remember the other one. I wasn't really a big fan of the last album he put out, but it was his most successful one, so you can't knock it that much. I mean, it was still pretty good. I just wasn't really that big on it. But this one is kind of like a perfect blend between what I like from the second album and the first album, and they put it together, and it is just like a sprinkle of mixtape Weeknd in there. It's a really long project, it's like 20 songs. So every song I'm not really that high on, but the song, it's like majority of it I am. Like, is the classic, like I said, it's like classic Weeknd with a little bit more of the poppy stuff that he does. Like he does a lot of Michael Jackson influences. Daft Punk is all over this doing production. Kendrick again is featured on this one, and he dropped a dope verse, just like he's been featured on a few of these albums on here. The Future does a couple dope features. It's a really dope stuff. I think my favorite song on this one right now, just to throw that out there, is the song Nothing Without You. I really love that one. So that's my number 6 pick. Number 5 is an album I was looking forward to. It delivered. I was really happy with it. Like, I knew he was coming out this year. And when he came out, I've been riding with this album heavy since it came out. It came out back in September. And this is number 5, Isaiah Rashad, The Sun's Tirade. I love this album. Top to bottom, every song is dope. Production is dope. It's so consistent. The song A Lot is like my banger of the year. Like, it's so dope. It's so abstract. Like, and that's how every song is. He dropped a dope video for from the Straw that I love. I love Paak. I love the Kendrick Lamar feature on this one. Is real dope. Like, it's just smooth riding music. Like, he just has this vibe that's going through it all the way through. His lyrics are on point at every turn. I really don't know what to say about it. It's a long one too, but it's really worth listening to. Like, it's like one of those long listens that just fly by. Like, it's 20, I guess I could say 20 songs with the bonus tracks included, and it's just, you know, you riding, you taking a 2-hour trip somewhere, and this is it. Like, this is definitely just something to ride to. I love this album, and I'm looking forward to whatever Isaiah Rashad put out later on in the future. My number 4, which it surprised me, like I said, I got my feel for albums later in the year, so it felt like everything I was expecting to be dope just kind of fell on its face. Like Kanye West's album, Drake's album. I like Beyonce's album, but let's just say, like I said, these are my favorite albums, and I like what Beyonce was doing, but I just didn't connect with it. I connected with Solange's album more than I connected with Beyonce's personally. But it just didn't do it for me. Rihanna's album didn't do it for me. So in the midst of all these albums coming out around the same time, this was in the springtime, like late February all the way to like April. And all these albums are coming out, and I'm really not getting my feel for what I really want from these albums. This one person, he was making buzz because he had just got signed to Dr. Dre. And, I was like, all right, I'm going to give him a shot. Because, people talking about him that I'm, some acquaintances, some friends that I trust their musical tastes, all of my favorite blogs and reviewers online, and all those other people were like, giving them mad props. So I finally said, I'm gonna sit down and listen to it, and I'm so glad I did. And I'm talking about Anderson .Paak, Malibu. Up until maybe November, I was talking like this was gonna be the album. This is gonna go down as the album of the year. He's nominated for a few Grammys, and I was talking about him in the last episode of the podcast. I really want this guy to take at least one, because he deserves it. This dude is multi-talented on so many levels. His story is dope. You hear it all over the album. I would even go as far to say that some of what he put together influenced a lot of the stuff that I put together on my EP. That's how deep I was into this. I put it on my phone back in April. It is December, and it is not moved. This album is not moved, top to bottom. I can't say enough about this album. I love the song with Schoolboy Q. I love Silicon Valley. I love the song with The Game. One of the dopest Game verses I've heard in a while on this record. It's not only does he have features on here, but these features contribute to the song in a way where it's personal to them, to their style and what they do, but at the same time it fits what he's doing. That's one of the dopest marks of a producer, is that it's not just him putting somebody on a beat, but him realizing, kind of directing them and letting the music and everybody involved just blend together real well. Nobody seemed out of place. Every song hit. There's only one song that I kind of skipped, and it's called Celebration. But other than that, everything about this album, top to bottom, and even that Celebration song, it's a really good song. It's just compared to everything else on here, it's not as great as everything else on here. And yeah, it caught me completely off guard. Maybe that's why I'm so high on it, because I never really go into somebody I've never heard. I've never heard any songs from this guy, and I just listen to him on the strength of everybody else's recommendations, but I'm still going into it kind of skeptical. And I love this thing, and I still love this thing. I listen to it all the time. I've never gotten tired of it. Definitely, up until these next 3 albums came out, this was album of the year for me. I really highly, strongly recommend this album to anybody. Dope R&B singer for anybody that doesn't know. R&B singer, does a little bit of rapping, but mostly sings. Definitely was going to be album of the year for me until these 3 releases came out. All of them just came out recently. And I'm talking about starting with number 3, Ab-Soul's Do What Thou Wilt. Now, my opinion on this album might change. And not like for the worse, but for the better. Because I was listening to this one. And I was listening to the next album on my list. Trying to figure out which one I liked more. You know, and I have a little bit of biases for number 2, you know, so that, with that aside, I might change my mind. But this is a full-length project. Ab-Soul gave me the album that I wanted from him when he put out These Days. When he put out Control Systems, and I weighed that one beside Section 80. This is before Good Kid, Mad City. I'm listening to them both, and I'm looking forward to Ab-Soul's commercial release more than Kendrick's, because I loved Control System from top to bottom. Ab-Soul just exudes something for me that I just can't get. I haven't gotten from like a hip hop artist in a long time, and I really wanted him to win. And this album right here should be the one that is highly celebrated. People love Cole's album when it came out, and people was giving it mad props, and I'm giving it mad props too. But Ab-Soul's album should be celebrated, like Womanology, Womanogamy, Threatening Nature, Beat the Case with Schoolboy Q. It's just, I can go on and on. It's a great album. I'm kind of crawling on these albums a little too long. So that's all I got to say. It's number 3. It's like my 3rd favorite album of the year. But number 2 goes to the hometown boy, Fayetteville's own J. Cole. For Your Eyes Only. I really hate that J. Cole stole my thunder on my birthday. But I also like the fact that, you know, it was dope that I put out my project and he announced his on my birthday, no less. And, you know, just 2 Fayetteville, Carolina boys making it out here. You know, I'm just going to go over 30 minutes. So I want to talk about this. There's been a lot of bit of debate, and I might talk about this in another podcast at another time. But, you know, everybody's on the fence about this album. They was like, it's boring. It's already a classic. Like, people were kind of on the thing. It was like, it's whack, it's boring, or they're saying it's a classic. I'm right there in the middle. I love this album from top to bottom. Definitely, only thing about this that I would like more than Ab-Soul's album right now is that there's way more for me to dive into right away, and I don't know what it is. You know, who knows? That's why I said, like, I might have to take my time and listen to Ab-Soul. It's just way more I can pick out that I love. I love Fold Clothes. I love the title track at the end. That's my favorite song. Neighbors is dope. Honestly, I really can't even pick a favorite. Like, every song from top to bottom is great, J. Cole's, and I really enjoyed it. And for people that saying it's boring, it's whack, that's your opinion, but I don't really think you're listening, and that's the only thing I'm gonna say about it. But for people that saying it's a classic, give it time. People didn't like Illmatic when it first came out in 1994. People knew, I mean, critically, it was not given its just due until later in life. It was considered a classic. You got to give albums this time to, you know, give albums time to breathe, time to digest them before you start throwing labels on them. Before you start throwing the whack label, this boring label, or the classic label. But I honestly like this album more than I like Forest Hills Drive, and I love Forest Hills Drive. One of those albums, like I was saying about a few other albums on here, I could put it in, I can listen to it, and it never gets old. That's how I feel about, and that's how I think I'm gonna feel about this album. I definitely copped it on the day that it came out, and I've been riding with it since. You know, him and Ab and Childish Gambino, those are the most recent albums, and I've been riding with them nonstop. But this album right here, that beat out all of the other albums, because J. Cole was just number 2. Number 1, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about this one, but I'm going to be out. It's none other than A Tribe Called Quest, dropping their final album this year. We got it from here. Thank you for your service. That is my number 1 album of 2016. Regardless of genre, regardless of artist, this is my favorite album of the year for multiple reasons. Not just because of the death of Fife, but it was great to hear Fife on this album sounding almost better than he's been for years. But granted, he hadn't really put out much music in years, but when I heard Fife on here, it reminded me of Midnight Marauder, Low End Theory Fife. And the fact that he was able to keep that and be that consistent, and even in the time when he was low in health, is amazing to me. Every song is on point from top to bottom. There's not a single flaw on this album to me personally. Personal favorites, I like the collaboration with 2 incredible abstract artists in Andre 3000 and Q-Tip. Just those 2 on this record, but it's amazing. If you don't hear nothing else from this album, that collaboration is called Kids. That is an amazing song. And Busta Rhymes is at prime form on this album. Consequences is in prime form on this album. Q-Tip is killing it on every song on here that he's on. Wall of Sound. The single they put out, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's We the People. Like I said, I can't really pick a favorite, and that's one of the things that separated this album from everybody else, was that it was so surprising, because when like artists been gone for a while and they come out with another album, it's kind of shaky. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But Tribe came in rare form and knocked it out of the park. Better. I mean, I went into it thinking it was going to be good, but I didn't expect how good it was going to be. This album is the best thing I've heard in years from anybody. And I got to give the legends their due. Like, I feel like if you took away every other album that was on this list and every other album that came out in 2015, this is the one that I could ride with forever and not really even care. I could ride with it. I could play it all 16 tracks and let it rewind again and wouldn't even flinch. Wouldn't even have a desire to hit the eject button. And there's really not much I could say. It's the best album of 2016 in my personal opinion. That's my time. I would like to sincerely thank everybody that's been tuning into the podcast since June. It's been since June. I've just been developing myself on here, and I feel like people really enjoyed it. Some episodes more popular than others. I'll be doing some surveys, so if anybody wants to participate in a survey, so you can help me make this show more entertaining and more better. I would really appreciate all the feedback in the world. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what your top albums of 2016 are. Who knows? You might make some recommendations that I can listen to in my spare time, and who knows? I might have to revise this list a little later. But that's as it stands right now. It's your boy, Mr. Vinnie-Dangerous. Yes, I am a dreamer. Out now. And I'll see you all in 2015. Happy New Year's.